Hey guys, what's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark from MacTheMovieGuy.com. If you didn't know that, you somehow got here. So you should probably click that subscribe button so I don't lose you and we stay friends forever. Because why not? I mean, you've known me for all of 10 seconds, so click subscribe. Anyway, we're going to talk about The Flash, not the TV series, or the TV series before that, or the comic book series before. Anyway, we're going to talk about the movie that was in theaters. And I don't think anybody cared. At first, I thought everybody cared, and then no one cared. And this movie had a strange box office life. Now it's on Max with audio description by, I believe, Jedediah Barton. But honestly, I pieced out of the credits. I was pretty sure that I recognized that name. I was like, yeah, it sounds like that to me. So, I left. So, good news for the Flash fans who have clicked on this video. I'm not going to bitch about the special effects because I'm a blind film critic. So, I have really no idea if the visual effects are finished or not. We can talk about the story, we can talk about the acting, we can talk about sound design and all those other kind of things, but yeah, if this movie looks like poop, well, it made it past my test. So there you go. So for the uninitiated who have no idea what the Flash is and don't notice the fact that I'm wearing a Flash t-shirt with a Flash logo to question whether or not I have any idea what I'm doing here, this movie's about Barry Allen. He's the Flash. He's a superhero. He's part of the Justice League. He's already been in movies. We've already seen him. He's played by Ezra Miller, whose name I feel like you've probably heard before, and you're not really sure why. And it's got a lot of people in it. Throughout the entire film, it's full of cameos. This should have been the biggest movie of the summer. I really don't know what happened with this film. It's actually not that bad. I really have no idea. When I was on my social medias all throughout before this movie came out, I had so many people on my social media who had attended an advanced screening. Every single person posted how much they loved this film. I guess they gave away too many free tickets because those people didn't come back and buy one, and this movie did not make enough money. But I swear to God, I knew like 10 to 20 people personally, like non-critics, who had seen, just random people who had been invited to advanced screenings as early as, like, I would say mid-May, like solid, probably close to a month before the film opened, they were running promo screenings of this film. And I'm guessing that's why the film flopped, because it's really not bad. I mean, like, I know I'm supposed to come on here and say some, I don't know, some YouTube baiting, clickbaiting, like, Ezra Miller shouldn't even be in this. You know, should have digitally removed him or replaced him with Zac Efron. 'Cause Zac's amazing. That's my point. That's my opinion on this. But no, I'm not going to do that because Ezra's in the film. Hopefully Ezra gets the help that they need and goes about their career. I hate to say because they're talented, but if they weren't talented, honestly, I wouldn't care. So, and I think that's true for a lot of people. It's not like we run around caring about the mental health about random people we've never met before who we have no idea what they offer to society. So usually it's the people either in our personal lives or, you know, when like our favorite pop star or whatever suffers, like the whole Free Britney thing, you know? I'm like, oh my God, please free Britney, you know? So it is what it is. But Ezra's actually really good as a Flash. And I love Grant Gustin on TV's The Flash, on the CW's Flash. So it took a lot for me because I was one of those people who, before they ever announced Ezra, I was really hoping Grant would play. I was hoping that this was the one casting choice that they would figure out a way to bring into the film universe. And to be totally honest, I actually think Grant Gustin is a better Barry Allen. But that's because he's had more time with it. When you watch The Flash, whether you like it or not, or think how CW it is, when you look at Grant Gustin and his performances and what he's been thrown over the years, he's just been thrown more things as an actor. His character has been more dynamic because it's not limited to these little brief instances in film. So, of course, he's going to have shown us more layers and levels of this character. So it's not really a fair comparison. I think Ezra's really entertaining. He actually, in this plot, goes down the same trope of trying to go back and stop his mom from being mysteriously murdered. And it's what lands his dad in jail. One of the things that I thought was weird about The Flash is it didn't really go into what happens to Barry when he has no parents. Like, I feel like we just sidestepped that a little bit and walked around it. In the TV show, that's part of why Iris is so close to him, is because he's adopted by her father, and they kind of are raised together. But in the series, in this movie, Iris, played by Kirstie Clemens, just kind of like shows up. And Barry's like, oh, I remember you from a while ago. I used to have a crush on you back in high school. So, what happened to him? Who raised him? Where'd he go? I feel like I didn't get, like, clarity on that part, anyway. Maybe Uncle Ben raised him. He's just lived, like, a massively tragic lifestyle. So, yeah, so that's what he tries to do. He goes back and he tries to change. But, of course, he doesn't listen to Batman, played by Ben Affleck, at the top of the film. One last time. So, yeah. He doesn't listen to Batman, and he goes back and tries to butterfly effect. Perfectly butterfly, which never perfectly butterfly affects anything. He probably actually did a pretty good job. That's the funny thing, is we never actually get to see that because something comes along and shoves him on his way back out through the Speed Force. Shoves him sort of into another timeline. He's in a timeline where there's already a Barry Allen who is slightly younger than him and has not been hit by lightning yet and does not have the skills. And so he kind of starts realizing how incredibly obnoxious he is to the rest of the Justice League when the younger version of himself he now has to mentor the younger version of himself. I think it's creative. I think it's definitely something that I wouldn't have expected from the Flash movie, but it actually does at least put the Flash centric in his own film, because there's literally two of him for a majority of the film. For a predominant majority of the film, there are two Barrys. So, I guess that's a spoiler, but that's also what the film is about. So it's really hard to, I guess they were not putting that in the trailers, but I like to talk about the things that the movies are actually about, and sometimes the trailers lie to you. I don't know what else to tell you about that. So sometimes the trailer is a lie, and I have to be able to talk about what the movie is actually about, and that's not even the biggest spoiler in the film. So it's only a spoiler because of how maybe the trailers chose to present the film to you. So, like, how did you think he got to Michael Keaton? You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you think he gets to Michael Keaton? Anyway, so in this Flash's timeline, everything is totally different. And he realizes he's messed everything up, but everybody has heard of Batman. They haven't heard of anybody else. And there's a really kind of hilarious scene where where they try to find out if Aquaman exists, and I thought that was cute and clever and funny. I don't think that's Nicole Kidman though. There wasn't really a shout out to the actress in that, and IMDb, oddly enough, didn't cite some of the people who I know cameoed in the film, so it's really hard to. I mean, I suppose I could watch like a YouTube video rundown of somebody telling me about all the little intricate cameos, but maybe Nicole Kidman's in this. I have no idea. Anyway, Bruce is now Michael Keaton, not Ben Affleck, which is a noticeable difference for Grant Gustin, both in terms of, face and age, because Michael Keaton is older than Ben Affleck. And he's wondering how this all happened, how he managed to mess things up. And there are some really hilarious side effects here. Some of these are great references. And Andy Muschietti, who directed this film and also directed the It franchise, look, he got everybody excited. We don't give this dude enough credit. He turned that Stephen King film into like a phenomenon. That movie made like $300 million at the box office. And based solely on the fact that he cut one of the best trailers of all time, regardless of how you feel about the film. That trailer for It is exceptional. And that is what got everybody excited, because people normally don't get that excited about horror films. Or especially a horror film that the last time it was adapted, it was like a crappy TV miniseries starring Tim Curry. So, this is definitely somebody who's got a lot of talent, and I hope DC really let him represent himself here, because I think if you're going to hire somebody like him, you got to let him do him. I think this is a very bright director with a very bright future ahead of him. And I would love to see him do another Flash. I know this movie made nothing at the box office, but I really can't conceptually understand why, unless people just didn't like all the cameos and wanted it stripped down to just being a Flash movie. But unfortunately, the Flash was tasked with opening up the multiverse, or whatever we want to call it in this. It's called something else in DC, but it's the multiverse. It's I kind of remember from all of those DC series crossovers. It's called something else, but whatever. And it answers all those questions as to how there have been all these different Batmans and all these different versions of Superman, which we'll get to in a second, because that's like my least favorite thing about this film. And so all that kind of stuff. So I really enjoyed that, and I like what Andy did in terms of direction and style. It's got a great cast to it. Even in the smaller parts, it's got like Ron Livingston in this film playing Barry's dad, which I don't think Ron Livingston, like conceptually, I know what these actors look like from having been able to see them younger. I don't think Ron Livingston looks anything like Ezra Miller, but maybe they made him look like Ezra Miller. I don't know, but there you go. Anyway, it's a nice story, and they bring back a lot of characters that have been used in previous DC films, and they bring back various iterations of them. So hopefully you are willing to figure out why these cameos exist, because I don't want to blow them for you and explain them for you, but there are more cameos, and Michael Keaton is the obvious one that they want to let you know about, because he's actually in a substantial section of the film. They also find a Supergirl, who I'm sure she's never going to be used in any DC project ever again, but I thought she was fine. She didn't do too much for me. She felt like a stand-in, to be totally honest, because it wasn't her film, so we didn't really get like a Supergirl establishment. We just got, hey, Supergirl's here. Check it out. Look at that. Yeah, it kind of felt like a little bit like that to me. Um, and that's kind of disappointing, I guess, for Supergirl fans. But she was fine. The actress that played her, I'm not familiar with her. I'm not familiar with her work. But I don't really have like a negative or a positive opinion on Supergirl. I just thought she was put in the film as because in before Barry runs back, he's consistently referencing the Justice League and the existence of other metahumans. And when he gets here, there seem to be none. There seems to be just none, and the world is about to be defeated because of it. And he feels like he screwed everything up. And then suddenly, we have at least one. We have Supergirl. So, somebody exists. Is the point? It's just some random rando though that he didn't even know about. It could have been any hero though. That's the problem, is that it feels like Supergirl could have been any interchangeable hero that they hadn't brought into the universe yet, that had powers. So it could have been a great Blue Beetle cameo. I don't bring Blue Beetle in before he does his own movie. Anyway, so yeah, it's just kind of interchangeable. So what didn't I like about this film? The actress playing Barry's mom, they've decided to make her Italian or something. I don't know. She was really hard to understand. And I'm not trying to throw people with like accents under the bus, but I don't know why. There's nothing that strikes me about Ezra Miller, particularly one way or the other. Like, I'm sure genetically he's something, and that's what we were trying to go with, but I could not really understand the actress. And I also thought, because her understanding of the English language wasn't great, that all of her lines just kind of fell flat for me. She has a couple lines with Barry, who, it's supposed to be this big emotional moment. I would have much rather appreciated somebody who could have landed the emotional punch for Barry than trying to like do some sort of a representation thing. I love representation, but if I had a choice between representation or emotional gut punch with that character, I would have chosen the emotional gut punch. This is a character that's supposed to be dead, and he hasn't heard her voice in years. The first time he hears her voice, I have no idea what she was saying. I have none. I would have to rewatch the film and listen really carefully, because I could not understand the actress. It's an actress I'm not very familiar with at all. Didn't recognize the name on IMDb. I don't know what to do with that. So that was kind of disappointing to me, because I was hoping that Andy Muschietti would know to land that punch. And we just kind of breezed past it. We're just kind of like, yep, that's happening, so we're going to move on to the next thing. It's like the whole movie was about this. Up until this point, the whole movie was about bringing her back. So there should be one great moment here between Barry and his mother, and it's kind of ruined by the fact that she's kind of unintelligible. So I hate to be the critic to point that out, but there, it's there. I mean, all I have is sound, so all I have are voices, and a lot of times I have to try to figure out who's speaking on screen simply based on what their voice sounds like. So my ears are somehow tuning themselves better to figuring out people based on what they sound like right away, so I can follow them throughout the course of the film, because audio description does not always remind me who people are every time. It's sketchy, it's up and down. This does actually a pretty good job. But and that gets to point 2 that I don't like in this long ass review that you weren't ready for. It's going to get even longer, because we have to talk about so George Reeves is in this. Now, George Reeves has been dead for a long time, like an unbearably long time, to the point where it's a little weird. I get what they're trying to do here. They were trying to show other versions as he's like traveling through the multiverses and everything. You see like other versions of things, and one of them is George Reeves. I won't spoil any other cameos for you, but I need to spoil George Reeves because I need to talk about something. The actors are currently striking because studios want to have autonomous use over their digital imagery through the use of AI. Either in depending on how high up, they have various offers on what they want to do with actor talent, from scanning background actors and owning their likeness in perpetuity, to scanning higher level talent, so that they don't have to do reshoots and they can just AI their way through adding scenes or redoing a scene and redoing dialogue, ADR, all that kind of stuff. They don't have to do any of that because they can just use AI. Movies will definitely get shittier if AI is trying to put an entire scene together and trying to understand what acting is. So what happened here is they took George Reeves' face and slapped it in this film. Now, George Reeves was an actor who believed he got a big break when he was offered the part of Superman many years ago. And then he was never offered anything else. And it led to his alcoholism and, let's say, early death. I'll be fair and not say what many people believe was suicide, because he could not be cast as anything but Superman. There's long been a debate about how George Reeves died and why George Reeves died. It's long been suggested, but unfortunately we can't ask him, so that he was depressed because there's only one thing he was ever able to do. And if you look up his IMDb credits, his last IMDb credits are literally as Superman. He literally played Superman on things that weren't even Superman. He's credited being like on I Love Lucy as Superman. So nobody wanted to see him do anything else. There was no Shakespeare in his future. There was no nothing. So this man ended his life at about 45, I think it was. And now he's Superman again from beyond the grave. And I think it's really just like a lack of tact for me. And it really goes to highlight what these actors are fighting against. The use of their imagery and AI. I think some of them have said that they think that, it's going to happen, they're going to be used, and I think you have to be able to control that. Unfortunately, George Reeves was, and that's what I hate the most about this, is that George Reeves was alive at a time in which we weren't sure we could be doing any of this. We didn't know that there would be AI. We didn't know that we would one day be able to put somebody's face and revive somebody from the dead so they could have a cameo in a underperforming box office film from 2023. Like, that wasn't a thing when George Reeves was around. He would have never been able to put that in his contract. Yes, I'm good with this stuff, but no, you can't use my image after I'm dead. Like, there's no contract for that for him because nobody would have thought of that back in the day about continuing to use his image in film because the technology wasn't there at the time. So it's a really morbid and unfair blow to the film, and it definitely is one of the things that makes me hesitant to like The Flash. It was one of the things going into The Flash, once I heard that this cameo was here, it kind of tuned me out. I'm going to be totally honest. I was like, I don't really care if I see The Flash anymore. My personal feelings about that are just, from everything that I know about George Reeves' death and where he was headed, it just doesn't sit right with me. So his existence in this film, I'm surprised more people haven't been upset about it. I know some people have. It just hasn't been enough. And I think it's because a lot of people, it's so long ago. Like, if you don't really know film and cinema, if you don't really know George Reeves, if you don't really know Superman, if you don't know all of that stuff, then to you it was just kind of like, oh, that guy, look at that. You know, I mean, it's like a cameo for like the seniors, for, you know, for the ARP crowd. And some of them may or may not remember. It's been a long time, so you know, I don't really know who that cameo was for. Anyway, yeah, it's I think it really highlights why the Screen Actors Guild is striking, because who knows what film they could be sucked back into, what horrible experience they could be put into through AI technology that they never would have chosen for themselves. Being in a sequel to a film that they had a terrible experience filming, anything like that, I can't even imagine. So, that's that I have to address, because it is a huge thing that looms over this film, even though it's like a fleeting moment. It was the choice to do it. You know, it's just the fact that they chose it. And that's why I tried to put on my Flash shirt, so that everybody could know I am a fan of the Flash. It has nothing to do with me not being a fan of this comic book. It has nothing to do with me not being a fan of Ezra or anything like that. It's all about this thing. And the audio description here is great. It does let you know when you've got a cameo like that, when there's somebody who's unexpected, and the difference in that. I think what's interesting is that when we do see Batman and it says played by Michael Keaton, there was no assumption. I guess the assumption is that it's Ben Affleck in the first part of the film playing Bruce Wayne, because it's supposed to be the original Justice League universe. So I guess we assume all of those mentions to all of those other heroes. There's even like a brief mention of Aquaman. So I guess that fleeting scene was Jason Momoa. It's really hard to tell though, because IMDb doesn't have all of these people credited. So I have to like track down visually what other people said, because they didn't really say all of these people. They just kind of assumed we would know which ones were who, or it was so quick that they didn't think it mattered, and they went for the ones that were gimmicky and made sure to let us know about the gimmicks. So, but as far as describing the action sequences and everything, there are some hilarious moments in this film that are described really well. I'd say probably the best one for me was the pointing out of how Barry Allen runs when he's the Flash. That goofy way where he pumps his arms, and it's like an overly exaggerated version of running. There's a scene where he's trying to get his speed back because he doesn't have it. And he's running around the room looking like a total jackass. And that's hilarious. And so I love a lot of what Andy Muschietti does here. And I want to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that the George Reeves thing was thrust upon him. And I don't know that it was his decision. But whoever's decision it was, I hate you. But I don't know whose decision it was to have George Reeves in this film. But whoever it was, I hate you. So congratulations. Because of that, it makes it really hard for me to factor that into the grade. So I'm actually not factoring George Reeves in the grade. I just have to bring it up because it is this dark cloud that looms over this film that I kind of liked. Just to be totally honest, I actually kind of like this film. Some of the references that were thrown into this alternate universe, absolutely hilarious. They had to deal with things that actually were originally alternate casting, and how those other things never happened. And, like, really just how wildly different the world is. All because of this, like, one thing. Like, all these he starts talking about movies, and like all these different actors played these different roles, but the one catalyst for that is as an actor who actually was originally in a role and then was replaced by another actor, and it's kind of blowing Barry's mind because in this timeline that actor was never replaced and went on to play that in the film. So yeah, it's hilarious, and I loved it. I loved all of those little references. Those were like the best parts of the movie for me. I think it's mostly just a really good time. I don't know why it bombed at the box office. I don't think this is that bad narratively. I think it does what it felt like it was promised, which was it opened up the Flash as a character, and it opened up his world and introduced us to some of the characters, but it also was tasked for being the film to open us up to more possibilities of, you know, other timelines. And he had to carry that burden. So he couldn't just make it about his own film where he's fighting his own villain with no help from any of the other Justice League members. It's not really what he was given. He was tasked with this thing from the DC gods on high, and I thought Andy Muschietti really did the best job that he possibly could with that task, and made it as interesting as possible by having Barry annoy the shit out of himself. And it's a fun watch. Ezra's good in it. Michael Keaton's good in it. And I wish more people had seen this. This film deserved to make more money at the box office. I don't know that it deserved to be like some sort of cultural touchstone. I'm not calling this like the next Dark Knight, but kind of like Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Well, that one was less successful for me, but I still thought it underperformed based on its quality. This one kind of underperformed based on its quality. So, it's not the best superhero film of the year. Guardians Volume 3 was better. It had more of an emotional punch. Again, that's what I'm talking about. You have to understand where your punches are, and Andy just blows right through it. That first meeting that he could have had with his mom is just, it feels like nothing. So, but it's entertaining. It's fun, and it's a quick watch. It wasn't that long of a film. So it has great audio description. I'm gonna give The Flash a B+. It's one of the films that I'll actually kind of remember as enjoying at the end of the year, but it's not going to be something that I'm like, oh yeah, this is in my top 10. This is one of my favorite films of the year. I'm not going to beat that drum either. But I am going to remember this positively, and it's possible that somewhere along the line I'd like to watch it again. So, God, I just wish George Reeves wasn't in this. With all of my heart, with all of my soul, let that man rest. And don't continue to haunt him by continuing. God, he's Superman after death. It's so morbid. The guy that couldn't get cast as anything but Superman is still getting cast as Superman, even though he's dead. Like, what is... I think they just assume nobody knows anything about George Reeves. So, anyway. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I know this is a long video, but it's worth it. It's The Flash. Let's talk about it. So, I apologize if I bored you to tears. If I did, just save this video and use it to put yourself to sleep. I also have a website, macthemovieguy.com. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, or Threads at macthemovieguy. You can go to the audio description project, adp.acb.org. It'll let you know what is audio description and where you can watch it. And you can go to the ADNA.org. That's the ADNA.org. And it will let you know more about Jedediah Barton and all of the other things he's described in his entire life. That's it for me today. I will review something else for you guys and see you on the other side.